Anxiety is another one that can kind of creep up on people. If you've had a few months of just feeling like you worry or anxious more than you need to be, and that anxiety or that depression's impacting your sleep, your ability to function at work, your relationships, if you're gaining weight, losing weight, and you're noticing these other changes, all of that really points to getting some professional help.
This is the Brandon Smith Show, and of course, I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to help you live a life that much more free from dysfunction. And so today, we are going to talk about something I think everyone listening to the show, everyone watching the show can relate to, and that is this dirty word, stress. How do we manage both workplace stress, but also just general life stress? And how do we do that better today? So to help us on this journey, I have a good friend of mine and who's been a guest on the show before, Dr. Arefa Cassoobhoy. Arefa, so good to have you on the show again.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this topic. I'm excited about what you're going to be able to bring to us. But before we go too much further down the path, I want to make sure I properly introduce you to all of the listeners and viewers who haven't met you before. So your title is you're not only a primary care internist, but you're also the senior medical director at WebMD and Medscape. So you've got a lot of hats you're wearing.
Yes.
And what I love about those hats is not only do you work with patients, see patients, but you're also out there trying to find research and other insights that can help us live our life better and healthier and finding ways to get that out to people. And I just love that. I think that's such a gift. So maybe a good...
Yeah, it's a great company, great companies to work for since that's their goal.
Yeah, I love that. And it's we all need that. So maybe a good starting point, when you think about stress today, what are some of the things that you've either seen just out in the world, in your own personal life? What are the things that are leading to that for us today?
Well, I think with stress, it definitely impacts personal and professional life. And there's good stress and bad stress. Certain stresses, it's appropriate, it motivates us, it keeps us going. But it can get over the edge. And so recently in my own personal life, I've had a family member that's sick the past year. And so I've had that added layer of stress as I'm building my career and raising my family. And so it's really kind of made me have to walk the walk. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a few years now, but this past year, every little item on my to-do list and checklist really matters. And so I thought today, people know they're supposed to exercise and eat right. That's kind of a known. Putting that into action, it's a little bit different. But I thought I'd talk about how exercise and nutrition really can impact stress.
Yeah.
And kind of see what you think of that.
I love that idea. And I think just to kind of go back and honor what you said, I think my experience has been for everyone I talk to, no matter what they do, where they are in the world, time's everyone's most precious resource and everything's urgent all the time. So we're already living in this state of kind of anxiety anyway, just the natural flow and rhythm. And all
part of our American culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And all it takes is just one little extra added thing on top of that.
Right.
An ill family member or some other kind of life event. And it just puts all that, just kind of crushes all that down on top of us. So, it's common for everybody today. They're dealing with such a level of stress, anxiety, depression, just feeling overwhelmed. And so I love this.
And I think the stressors are really there beyond your usual what's going on with your family and what's going on at work. In this past year, I've learned about so many people who have family members that are sick. I had no idea that it was so prevalent with the people I'm around all the time, and how that can impact how can it not actually impact how your day goes at work? So yeah, one thing, just jumping right on in with exercise. I've exercised regularly for years. Not an athlete level, just your regular person getting to the gym, kind of doing a few things. Basically, the goal being to manage my weight, which is such an American thing, and also just to keep up with everybody, right? I want to go on the ski trips, and I want to swim with my kids, and I want to go on hikes in the beautiful Georgia mountains. So that's that's why I exercised all these years. But this past year, what I've noticed is, and this is proven, this is shown in the literature already. It's just now I can feel it. I haven't beyond just reading it. When I exercise, I become more calm. My anxiety level drops. I'm more relaxed. And the bonus from that time of exercise extends into the evening. I sleep better, and sleep is so important to health.
Yeah.
If you get restful sleep, the next day is going to be a better day. So I've really kept up with almost exercising every day. And I count little things. I count going for a walk with a coworker as part of my exercise for the day. It's just a matter of moving. It's really more about moving every day, because in the corporate culture, you can drive from your garage to the parking deck up to your office and really not move much for the whole day. And I've had days where I've only walked 800 steps. So it takes intention to really move, and then enough that your body feels like something has happened during the day. But then, of course, adding in the weight resistance training and the aerobics is very important. The third piece is flexibility training.
Yeah.
So I have dabbled with yoga over the years. And this past year, I realized I really needed the yoga. For one, the stress on my body was adding up. I felt like I was more prone to injuries. And some of that's just related to rushing and not paying attention because you're so overwhelmed by everything going on. And some of it's just the body being tense and more at risk for injuries. So the yoga was really started out as I increased it for the flexibility, but then I noticed that if I took the time to really breathe like the yogis tell you to, and to focus in on that 1 hour or hour and a half, and exercise myself to knock out those other thoughts that were racing through my head, it's similar to exercising a muscle in your body. You learn to get better at that. And that translates into the workday, because I've noticed that I'm getting much better at when I'm having a conversation with someone, I can look them in the eyes, really focus, give them my full attention. And right off the bat, in the workplace, for example, if the other person actually feels like they're heard and that you're listening, you're going to make more progress.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got some questions for you.
Okay.
All right, so you gave a nice menu for us. You said, first we need to make sure we've got some kind of aerobic exercise, something to just movement, like that's really important. We've got weight training, and then we've got flexibility training.
Yes.
So I'm naturally thinking, I imagine a lot of listeners are thinking the same thing. All right, I love that menu. What's the right amount of each that I need to be doing?
Oh, sure.
So if we think about kind of the movement side, so I've noticed for me that, if I can get to a place where I'm working up a little bit of a sweat doing cardio, so maybe I'm going for a light run or on the bike or something, that's when I start to feel the difference in terms of endorphins kicking in, and I can feel my anxiety start to slip away when I can get a little more of a sweat versus just a walk. For me, what have you found, or what do you see?
I mean, it's very similar. I feel like when I get out and walk, if I'm walking and I'm having a great conversation and I'm getting a little bit of a sweat because I'm walking kind of fast, that relaxes me. And that's a social piece and a muscular. If I'm on the treadmill, elliptical, or running, swimming, biking, any of those, it is true as your heartbeat gets up, when you come down off of that, you relax more. And in terms of how often to do it, ideally most days of the week, sort of moderate exercise for about 30 minutes. And if you're doing vigorous exercise, you can cut down to a few times a week. For the weight training, what's recommended is twice a week.
Okay.
And for that, you really want to avoid injury. So having someone help you with training initially to make sure you're doing the exercises appropriately is a good idea.
Yeah. And
with yoga, I think I really believe that meditation, that piece of it, a few minutes every day is ideal. But as far as a recommendation, there isn't really a formal recommendation. I've incorporated it on my off days where I'm not pushing myself to get my heart racing or building muscle.
it's so funny hearing you talk about this journey that you've been on, because I feel like I've been on the same journey, not realizing we've been in the same car together, because I've had the same issue. And I think that so much of my stress manifests itself muscularly for me. So I end up just very tight and tense. Plus I'm doing a lot of sitting. And so my body's like locked up. And I found I've been working really hard this year on doing more stretching and much more flexibility work. And so I'll find myself doing cardio for 30, 40 minutes and then going to the mat and stretching for like 30 or 40 minutes. And I almost have to do that every day, because if I don't, I'll start to get locked up again. And it's just, I walk around like an old man.
And it's one of those things that ability of our body to recover. We need more stretching the older we get. So it's just something to it's good you're getting it in. I know in our office, my project manager is a yogi, and she launched a project really to influence our work culture. And she worked with team members to develop a set of posters that are in all our conference rooms. And I've moved into an office, otherwise I could show you the one in our regular conference rooms. But they're just chair yoga positions. So if you're in a 30-minute to 1 hour meeting, you can take a moment and do the stretches and just loosen up. And it definitely, the breathing involved, it just makes you more alert and ready to keep going with the conversation, whatever the meeting's about.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right. So we've got kind of a good menu now for exercise. We're going to roll to break pretty soon, but before we get to break, I want to at least start the conversation on diet. So what would be some initial thoughts that you've uncovered or discovered over the last year that might help us think differently about diet? And then we'll roll into break, and then we'll start to dive into that a little bit more.
Sure. I think the work week, the 40 hours we spend in the office, it's a good portion of our life. And it's a great place to put in routine, healthy foods. And by that, I'm thinking of foods that fall into the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet. So greens, lots of greens. And the USDA My Plate, where I love the visual of that. So half your plate should be greens and fruits. More on the green vegetable side, a little less on the fruit. The other half should be a healthy carb and a lean protein. And if you can try to incorporate that into breakfast, lunch, snacks, and then and dinner, it's an easy way to kind of know what to put into the meal. I'm a big proponent for bringing brown bag lunches just to take out I find it a little anxiety provoking to think about where I'm going to eat for lunch and then getting there and standing in line in Atlanta heat or rain and getting the food and then kind of looking at it going, wow, this isn't as healthy as I wanted. Maybe I should eat half, but I'm hungry. Let me finish it all. So it's easier just to kind of proportion everything out and bring it. But there are certainly healthy options available for those that are buying their food out regularly.
But I didn't hear you say anything about candy bowls in the office. I guess that's a no-no.
It's even though it's WebMD and Medscape, we're just regular people, so there are some candy bowls out. I try to avoid them.
Nice. Okay, so let's roll into break. When we come back from break, I've got some more questions around diet for you, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Here's your coaching minute for the week, presented to you by the Leadership Foundry. So credibility, as we know, is super, super important. Let's say now you've gotten into a new job. You've either got a new boss or a new team, and you're trying to build credibility really, really quickly right out of the gate. One of the easiest ways to do that is focus on proactive communication. We all do the reactive communication stuff. People text us, IM us, email us, and we respond. Focus on proactive communication, particularly status updates. It's so simple and easy, but it's a great way to provide quick clarity into what you're working on and build credibility. And I find it to be the best way to enhance trust quickly with a new boss. So put on your calendar either every Friday or every Monday, typically the end or beginning of a week, to send to your boss what are maybe those 3 to 5 things you got accomplished during the week, and what are the 3 to 5 things that you're going to work on the next week. And you'll find after about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of doing that with your new boss, that they'll say, hey, those were really great. You don't need to send those anymore. I really appreciate what you've been up to. So give it a try. It's a quick way to build credibility and enhance trust right out of the gate. Welcome back to the Brandon Smith Show. Of course, I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and this show has been all about managing our stress and using exercise, diet, meditation, other techniques to really deal with all the stressors that are in our life today. So, Arefa, right before break, we were transitioning from exercise into diet, and you gave this kind of beautiful image of kind of how you should think about even structuring your plate, structuring meals.
Yes.
How can we do that in a way that is easy? I mean, do you have any techniques or tricks that you do when you think about planning either your meals or even your family's meals that kind of makes that easy?
I do that in bulk. So I have a big container that I mix oatmeal, nuts, raisins, and cinnamon. And I divide it out into small jars, and it's in my fridge like 7 days at a time. And I just microwave that and walk out with it every morning. So it's a very filling, super nutritious breakfast. I don't mind the routine of it. Like I like my dinners and my weekend meals to be unique and different, and I want to try new things. I'm big into trying new restaurants. But during the week, Monday through Friday, it's about work, it's about feeding my mind. And I think that's sort of a good way of thinking about it, is this is food for my mind and body. I'm really trying to fill it up with nutrition that will help me do the job I've got to do today. And then I do the same thing with my salads, 2 to 3 days at a time. I'll just quickly toss some vegetables at the bottom of the container, and I put the lettuce on top so that it doesn't get wilted, and I take it to work. I also make soups that I make in bulk, and I have these little small Pyrexes that I freeze them in, and then it defrosts in the morning by the time it's time for lunch. So that's exactly what I've eaten today. So, and I kind of do the same thing for my kids.
And do they go along with it pretty easily?
Yeah, they're used to it. They don't really have an option. They know that I'm not trying to make them like fancy meals for the week. We do try to do hot entrees for them. We're not in a place where they can get really easy, healthy lunch meals from the cafeteria. So they just go with it. They don't know better. So.
I think there's something to that too. You just create that culture in your family of this is how you're supposed to eat.
Yeah.
So there's really not.
There's a mom that had a great quote, like, you have to eat your healthy something before you eat your healthy every day food before you can eat your once in a while okay healthy food. So my son has been known to ask for a banana and chips because he knows he's more likely to be able to eat chips if he's had a banana.
Oh, nice.
And so right now we're just trying to incorporate with him is that every time he eats, he gets some kind of veggie fruit in first, including breakfast. So we're working on that to get those habits in. And then it's a lot about mindset that, hey, you've got a swim meet, you've got a cross-country race. We want you to be ready for that. So here are the nutritious foods. Avoid the foods. And this is something that comes up with the lunch menus at work. If you go out and eat just kind of random stuff, then you kind of get that heavy feeling and you want to take a nap, or you get bloated, or your little stomach's a little upset, or, things just don't do well. So avoiding that by eating just regular healthy meals that you know your body likes is a really good way to get through the workday energetic.
You know, when I think about helping people change, I always think about kind of the start, stop, continue. What are you going to start doing? What are you going to stop doing? What are you going to continue doing? And so you've given us a great idea of kind of the start doing, thinking about kind of structuring your day and how you can eat. Sometimes the stop doing can be just as powerful. So what are the kinds of foods or things that you try and stay away from and you would kind of counsel people to stay away from?
So in terms of counseling people, I think drinks are important to talk about here, what you're consuming. So minimizing caffeine and alcohol is a good idea. With the caffeine, you can get loaded up, and then when the caffeine wears off, you kind of feel kind of tired, and that can exacerbate that post-lunch sort of like lull, where
how much
we don't have a siesta in our American culture,
That's
so
true.
we can't like roll with that.
Maybe we need one. How much caffeine is the right amount? Is it, or does it vary by person?
So it varies actually by the caffeine in the drinks that you're having, and I don't remember right offhand the exact numbers, but 1 to 2 drinks a day is fine, and even up to 3 to 4 is, from a medical standpoint, okay, unless you're getting symptoms from it. Some people who have issues with anxiety, they're going to feel more jittery and their heart will race a little more. And there are a few medical conditions where the caffeine can just exacerbate that, not necessarily be a medical, problem. So that's something to be aware of. And then with alcohol, it's the same thing. I mean, the official guidelines are, 1 drink an evening for females and 1 to 2 for a male. But if alcohol could easily and often disturbs people's sleep. So they may take it. One of the biggest myths out there is if I have a drink, I'll sleep better. When actually you're more likely to have these middle of the night awakenings, and that next morning, it may not be that clear hangover that people talk about, in the party days of their teens and 20s, but it can impact the next day. So those are 2 places that I caution people. And at least I don't necessarily have to tell people about the sodas and the juices as much anymore. I think that people know, and if it is their guilty pleasure, they're kind of trying to work down on it. But obviously the sodas, and with children, I think the juices aren't as well known, that water really is best. And juice can have unwanted calories. It would be better to eat a piece of fruit.
Nice. Okay. All right. So we've talked about exercise. We've talked about diet. Anything else you want to make sure that we kind of throw into our stress management toolkit?
Well, I think it's important to realize when you may need something more than lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling if you're feeling depressed and it's lasting a couple of weeks where you're sad, you're feeling hopeless, you're irritable, or you're not enjoying the things in life that you normally would enjoy, I would suggest reaching out earlier rather than later to a medical professional. I think there's a lot of options with talk therapy and medications that may or may not even be necessary for you at that point. That's okay, but understanding those options and when your limit is, when you need to think about that is good. Anxiety is another one that can kind of creep up on people. If you've had a few months of just feeling like you worry or anxious more than you need to be, and that anxiety or that depression's impacting your sleep, your ability to function at work, your relationships, if you're gaining weight, losing weight, and you're noticing these other changes, all of that really points to getting some professional help. And one of the things I wanted to add is that one thing I see with looking out for talk therapy, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. I think it's hard to connect up when you're looking at the logistics of making appointments or making calls, when you're looking at what your insurance will pay for. Then you're finding someone that you kind of jive with, and you're finding a method of therapy, whether it's cognitive-based therapy, which is pretty common and successful in these circumstances, or another version of psychotherapy or therapy. There is a sense of this is a little bit of a marathon, trying out different people, different methods until you get something that's going to work for you. So I suggest to some people to really have someone help them with that process, because if you're in the middle of a depression, it may be difficult to work out all the details needed to make it to the appointment.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that can even extend to other things we've talked about. And I'm going to frame it up and then ask you a question about it. I think we always want a quick fix, right? I'm going to do this thing, and all of a sudden everything's going to turn around. But what I'm hearing you say is you need to give yourself some patience and grace. I mean, you think about change in a different way. It's not going to be an overnight kind of thing. So what is reasonable timeline to give yourself? 6 months, I'm going to work at this thing. And I shared with you, I've been working on my challenges with stress in my back and doing a lot more exercises around that. And I'm about 4 months in, and I'm seeing great results, but I'm still not there. And I'm realizing it's not like a two-week thing. I'm going to do these exercises to be better. And in fact, the person I've been working with says, you really need to give yourself a year. It's going to be a year to where you really see your body make that adjustment and change and hold it. So what are some kind of guidelines or counsel you provide?
Hey, hold on for a second. I'm on the podcast. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. This is the problem with being in the office and not in one of the hideout conference rooms.
I got to talk to you. That's great.
So that's actually a classic workplace issue, is being distracted. But going back to your question about how long, what I'm understanding is how long to really do it on your own versus getting help.
Yeah. And even if you are going to get help, how long? So when people say, well, gosh, I want to change this thing. Can I just take a pill and make it better? Or can I just, I'm going to make some dietary changes. Shouldn't I be seeing results in 2 weeks? What's kind of a way we need to think about this?
Well, for me, in terms of actually alleviating stress, I think it's a long haul. So as opposed to when I'm making changes to lose weight or fit into a dress, where I do feel I have this timeline. For stress, it's really that I just need to get a good night's sleep tonight, so I've got to get the exercise. And I don't want to feel ill and uncomfortable in my body, so I'm going to eat nutritiously, and I'm going to avoid alcohol for a few weeks. I'm going to cut down on my caffeine so I can make it through the day. These are really long-term changes. For actual problems like the muscle strain or a clinical depression, it's definitely the tail is for months. But I do think you can break down feeling better into bite-sized amounts that have goals that you kind of reach over 2 to 3 weeks. So that for what's going on with you, over the last 4 months, you have made significant progress and you are feeling a lot better, and you feel like you're a lot more in control of, hey, if I do this, I'm going to be injured again. And if I do this, I can get that great anxiety releasing, reducing run, but in a way that's not going to make my back pain worse. So it's really finding those micro goals and hitting those one at a time.
Nice. So Isaac, just let me know, we're getting close to our end of time already.
Oh, wow, that was fast.
I know. So I always ask, you remember this question, I asked you this last time you were on the show, but I'm going to ask you again. What's one good life hack that you have for us to help us live a life more free from dysfunction, either on the personal side or the professional side?
Sure. So last time I talked about my calendar. I'm still really attached to my computer and all the tools that come with it. And I really think my lists are really, really helpful. So in the workplace, I have a notebook. I don't want to be rude to anyone in a meeting, so I don't do any of this on a computer. I have a notebook with a pen. It's very old school. but I just put the meeting on it, and the pages just go. It's not organized to be filed anywhere. I feel like when you take notes, you automatically become more attentive, and you're listening for key concepts, and you're thinking about, well, hey, what's the big picture of this what this person is trying to tell me? And it also releases you from worrying about what you have to do after the meeting. So I often use the notebook to write down 2 or 3 points, nothing major, not like studying for an exam, but just these ideas of, this is what I'm going to take away from what this person told me. I also use it on my phone and in that notebook to jot down quick ideas. And I use Google Keep and Google Notes, but I think there's a lot of apps out there. But that's like the kind of little things, like I can just do a little audio note. Hey, don't forget to thank so-and-so for dropping off the kids early. Hey, there's a New York Times article that's perfect for someone I'm working with. Don't forget to send that to them. And then that's the little things that really build relationships and show you really know who the person is and care about them and want to share something with them. But then even ideas with someone higher up that's got a project for me that's really not going to come to fruition for 2 or 3 months. I'll take quick notes about 3 points that I've got to cover when I do an interview or something. So I think that that's great for the person that's anxiety prone and gets overwhelmed. Just throw it all in the notes. You may not look at it for a while, but you can organize what needs to immediately get done, what you can take a week or a month to do, and what's really took the notes and you're going to delete it. So that's my life hack.
I love it. So it can help us be a little more focused, a little more structured, a little more disciplined, and it also takes some of the noise out of our head because we can put it someplace.
Yes, I don't have to sit there and think, what was it I was supposed to do? I can just look in the notes and see all the different things and think, oh, hey, I got 15 minutes. Let me knock these out.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
So I am on Twitter, and so my handle is @ArefaMD. I'd love to hear from people.
Arefa MD.
Yes. And my bio is on WebMD and on the Medscape site. So I'm there to learn about, and I'm on LinkedIn, definitely on LinkedIn. So. Okay,
excellent. Arefa, thank you. Such a pleasure. I've already got some things I'm going to take away and put in place in my own life. So,
awesome.
The show was really about helping me today. Hopefully everyone got something else out of it too. But I got a lot. I feel like I got my own counseling session with you. It was great. And thank you for listening and watching. Of course, stay tuned every Sunday. We have a new show at 7:30 p.m. and you can catch that on iTunes or on Facebook Live. And if you haven't gone to the Workplace Therapist site, go to the Workplace Therapist site. Just Google the Workplace Therapist, and there's resources there to help you live a life a little more free from dysfunction. And if you've enjoyed today's show, which I hope you have, please rate, subscribe, and promote us on iTunes. It means a lot, and it brings more people into the fold. So until the next show, have a great week and an awesome life.